The church today gives us the next 4 weeks after today, 5 weeks of readings from the Gospel of John, chapter 6, which is commonly referred to as the Bread of Life Discourse. John chapter 6 leads us through explicit language of Christ's body and blood, and he firmly establishes what the teaching of the Eucharist is, which is the core of our faith. The Gospel of John does not include the scene from the Last Supper, which include the words of Eucharistic institution, which we know is, "This is my body, this is my blood." What it does is it leads us through these images and language that help us to understand and delve deep into the mystery of what the body and blood of Christ is all about. The multiplication of loaves in today's gospel is the only miracle story in all 4 gospels. And Jesus shows us that he fulfills our basic needs, particularly for food. It's also, he has Eucharistic actions because they collected the bread, he gave thanks, he broke, and the community feasted, just like we will do later in the Eucharist. We can obviously see the connection between the first reading of Kings and the Gospel. In the first reading, the prophet Elisha takes 20 barley loaves and he feeds 100 people with some left over. With Jesus, he takes 5 barley loaves and feeds 5,000 people with more than enough left over. I don't think we understand in our society, particularly us Americans, the basic need for food. It's all around us, isn't it? There's grocery stores in every corner. We take it for granted. We walk in and there's a superabundance of food. And very often, little do we think, well, where did it come from? Well, how did it get here? And sometimes we forget that the source of that food is ultimately from God. And that's what the gospel is telling us. It's not about the quantity that satisfies. It's about who satisfies. When I was in my diaconate formation, I went to Philadelphia to a big soup kitchen in city called the St. Francis Inn. And one of my many jobs was to collect and distribute bread to the poor and homeless in the area. Well, we would go out and we would go to the bakeries in the area, fill up the van with bread, we'd bring it back, and then after dinner, we would load up in the yard outside all these loaves of bread in various fashions and kinds. And the people that had very little would come in and take the bread, and it would satisfy them. And if they came back again the next day, there was more than enough for them. Isn't that what we've seen in the story of Moses and the Israelites? 40 years in the desert with no food. God provided manna, the bread from heaven. And each and every day, they always had more than enough. And what about the story of David and Goliath? The little kid up against the 9-foot giant. What does he show up with? Not 5 loaves of bread. He's got 5 stones and a slingshot. And he comes against the giant and he says, "You come against me with a sword and a spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord God of hosts." He put his trust in the Lord and he defeated Goliath. Aren't we a lot like the crowd of followers in the gospel today? We can't feed 5,000 people on the limited resources that we have. But if we turn everything over to God and trust in him, He will always provide us more than enough. I think all Christians are like that too. Because do we have sufficient natural talents and wisdom to defeat the forces of evil in our life? Do we have sufficient strength to eliminate the hatred, the lust, the greed that rages in our heart? Do we have the knowledge to know every step in our life's journey, what to do? On our own, we have nothing. When we turn over what we have to the Lord, that will really make a difference in our lives and for the lives of society at large. Remember this: what we can never achieve on our own, we can immeasurably surpass with God. As Matthew puts it, chapter 19, verse 26, for God all things are possible. So let us put what we have today in the hands of the Lord, and He will provide us more than enough.